This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network with this breaking news. The government has now approved new rules for net neutrality. Now, what do you think about that, sir?
I think they're great, seeing how they're using it like a utility, because it's like with water, we need water to drink and stuff. But also with net neutrality, we need information. Information on the internet is key, and by slowing down like certain sources, it doesn't help at all. That's what's the main problem with the main companies.
Now, the new rules will regulate the internet like a utility. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I actually think it's a great idea, because then it's a utility, everyone uses it, the public needs it.
Now, will this mean? Now, what will this mean in the future for the internet? Do you
I think it's safe to say that major companies won't take it and slow down major sources, and that as it'll be cheaper it'll be cheaper and everyone will be able to afford it, like in most like Asian countries where there's Wi-Fi everywhere. So it's going to help so many people.
Now, do you think this will lead to higher or lower prices, for the future?
I would believe they would lower the prices because it's a utility, but most companies want to they want to raise the prices just because it's cheaper and it's a utility.
So in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say to the folks?
Not really. Thank you, though.
In closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, taxing you. This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this breaking news that the government has approved new rules for net neutrality. What do you think about that?
Well, here in Gotham, internet is very used a lot for technology is very, and so I think this is very great that they're doing this for us, and it's needed, and
Yeah, just play with the character. Okay. You don't have to be serious. Okay. Now, these new rules will regulate the internet like a utility. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. Why not? I don't know.
Okay. Now, what do you think this will mean for the future of the internet?
Oh, I think it's gonna, it's good now, but it's only good for us. So in the future, I don't think it's gonna work.
Now, do you think this will push prices higher or lower in the future?
Probably higher because of the demand. So
in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say to the folks?
I don't know.
Okay, so in closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this breaking news. The government has now approved new rules for net neutrality. Now, what do you think about that, sir?
I think we really should have needed something like that. I think it was ridiculous how companies would be forcing people to pay higher prices for internet speeds that honestly everybody should be having the same internet speed, especially on a day like this, day and age like this, when like everybody's using the internet nowadays. So I shouldn't be paying higher prices for the same internet that my friend is using next door.
Now, these new rules will regulate the internet like a utility. What do you think about that?
I'm a little bit iffy on that. I don't want it to be like all restrictive and everything. I mean, I want my internet to be as how it's always been, fast. It's just all I'm just looking for is for everyone just to have the same speed of internet. But if they regulate it to the point where it's like very restrictive, then that's I think where I'm going to be having a problem with that.
Now, what will these new rules mean for the future of the internet?
Well, that one's actually going to be a little bit difficult for me to understand. I mean, I never really looked into the future of how net neutrality would affect the internet of the future. Honestly, I'm just happy for the fact that we don't have to worry about companies now demanding higher prices for internet speeds that everybody should have had equally for the first place.
Now, do you think this will lead to higher or lower prices in the future?
That one, I think if it leads to higher prices from all internet companies, I think we're going to be seeing a backlash from not really the community, but just from users that have been paying for internet services. I think we're going to be seeing a backlash from them. And I think when they were passing this net neutrality deal, I think the politicians, they already understood that, like, hey, if we were to pass this, we might see something of a spike. So I'm pretty sure that if we see a spike, then it was probably the politicians' job of them not looking into what was going on here. But honestly, if I picture high prices, to be honest, no.
So in closing, any last minute things you'd like to say?
Well, I really like your mask and your suit out here, sir.
So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, finding new ways to tax you. This is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this breaking news that the government has now approved new rules for net neutrality. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's good that it's going to be regulated as a utility, because what that stops is the private sector from being able to do things like throttle speeds and control who gets what based on how much they pay. Like, you don't see that with utilities like water or electricity, where they don't have different like levels of, oh, well, you get premium water, you get, and the internet's been really unregulated for a long time, or, the regulations in terms of the flow of information, and that's really what makes it such a unique place, everyone having the same kind of access to it, with the exception of speed. So I think it's a really good thing. I think it's a little surprising because, I'm a little cynical, so I was expecting that enough lobbying, enough corporate, pressure would stop this from happening. So it's really good to see. And this is not the first time they've tried to do this, though, so hopefully this will be the last time we go through the net neutrality issue again.
Now, you mentioned this would be like a utility. What do you think that's a good thing, that it will be regulated like a utility?
I think it's a good thing that it's regulated as a utility, because what that does is it means that people are going to have the same kind of access to it. Like, you look at water, you look at electricity, and you don't see people being deprived of it via different levels of payment. So I think it's a lot better. It also allows a little bit more control over quality, that type of thing. So so I just think it's more fair that way.
Now, for the future of the internet, due to these new changes, what do you think the future will be like?
I think because of these new changes, I'd say it's actually less of a change and more of a confirmation of the status quo in a lot of ways. So I see the internet not being, I see it not really changing much because of that. But the threat was that it was going to change into something less than what it was.
Now, do you think this will lead to higher or lower prices for internet in the future?
I mean, that's a good question. I think since it's regulated as a utility, at this point, I am not sure, but there might actually be roofs on the prices. So, again, I'd kind of expect maybe the internet providers will, the same way the insurance companies did when the healthcare came out, they might try to raise their prices just because they're mad.
Yeah.
But I don't see it getting too bad.
So in closing, any last minute things you'd like to say?
No, not really. I don't really have much to add.
So in closing, this is Clark Kent from the Predatory Lending Network, signing out. This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this breaking news that the government has just passed new rules for net neutrality. What do you think about that?
You know what? It's, I guess it's a good thing. Net neutrality.
Now, these new rules will regulate the internet like a utility. What do you think about that?
It's a tool, and if it needs to get regulated, who else better than the government?
Now, what will this mean for the future of the internet?
I guess things will be more monitored. Hopefully, it'll regulate what people can do online. Not necessarily take away their freedom, but really just maybe not entice them to do things that are evil or corrupt or can hurt the greater mass.
Now, do you think this will lead to higher or lower prices in the future?
Oh, higher.
Higher? Definitely. In closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
Just like we were talking about earlier, hopefully cosplay is on the rise again. We see a lot more of it, a lot more participants, and people able to express themselves.
Okay. So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, taxing you. This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, out with this breaking news that the government has just approved new rules for net neutrality. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I'm not really for it. I hope it doesn't end up like that.
Now, these new rules will regulate the internet like a utility.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I'd rather not pay for the internet. I think it should be free for everyone.
Now, what do you think this means for the future of the internet now that these new rules are out?
I think they're going to charge us left and right for all different kinds of things. So I'm not really a fan of that.
Now, do you think this will make higher or lower prices in the future?
I think it'll make things a lot higher.
So in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
No, but I appreciate you interviewing me.
So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network looking for new and interesting ways to tax you.